Hi, Timmy.
You having a nice laugh, are you?
I mean, it's Christmas. It's Christmas morning.
Hey!
I love the way it makes me feel inside.
What's up, everyone? Adam from FWCI. This is Mr. McMahon. I am very, very interested in what's going to happen in this documentary here. This is very different to what I usually react to on the channel. Usually I keep it much more light, but pro wrestling is something that I've followed throughout my entire adult life, and I've followed it closely. I followed behind the scenes and what happens on screen and everything in between, and WWF/WWE was synonymous with Vince McMahon. He was this tyrannical figure. Like, he had more say and more authority over what was going on in the world of wrestling than anybody ever has, and probably ever will. So I know quite a bit about Vince McMahon. I was confident enough to cover pro wrestling on my sports and gaming channel when I first started doing YouTube. It didn't work out, but I did it for a year, and you know, it was a pretty wild time. In fact, the reason I decided to stop doing it was because Vince McMahon decisions to just start firing waves and waves and waves of people throughout COVID, it just soured me on the entire product of pro wrestling, and my fandom has never fully recovered. But going through all of Vince's career, there's going to be a lot to cover here. I know this interview was done before the Janelle Grant situation came to light, and I know Vince has tried to buy this documentary back from Netflix in order to prevent them from airing it. He said that he saw an early cut and they've been deceptive and things like that. But when it comes to, and put it this way, I don't put it above Netflix to sensationalize anything, and I don't think Netflix have the most sympathy for some of the subjects involved in their documentaries. Take Baby Reindeer, for example. Netflix claimed that they protected the real Martha's identity, but as soon as the episodes went up, people immediately found her on social media and started harassing her, and Netflix is taking no responsibility for that. So I don't know what I think about Netflix these days. I don't think this is going to have any impact on WWE's new deal with Netflix either. That's, you know, I don't think that's going to come into it. But what I am interested to see is how the wrestlers, past and present, talk about Vince McMahon, because I've always noticed in interviews that there's this worship of the man. He gave me my opportunity. If it wasn't for him, I would have never been the thing I could do, and da-da-da-da-da, which he's your employer. He was your employer, and he happens to monopolize the industry that you wanted to work in. You owe the man nothing at all. Once you leave the company, your employment is done, and you don't owe him shit. So I think Vince is a very polarizing figure, but that's becoming less and less of a concern as more information about him comes out. So let's see what this documentary is all about. Now, like I say, I don't usually react to documentaries. I don't know how much of this I'm going to include. If you haven't seen it, there's a lot that you're going to miss by watching my reaction. So make sure you go watch it first before you watch my reaction. Or if you're not going to, don't complain about it in the comments, because I'm not here to show you the whole documentary. I'm just here to talk about some of the key points that stand out. But I do plan on doing every episode at this point. We'll have to wait and see how this one performs. But let's go. And by the way, episode 1 is called Junior. Vince McMahon is a junior, and I know he hates being called Junior. So just the fact that the first episode is called that makes me feel that this is not going to be favorable to a person who has a plethora of historic evidence to make him seem very unfavorable. So, Vince, let's see what you've got for us. Tense music playing, yeah, I agree. Oh, we're speaking of Linda in this. Bob Costas, Shane McMahon. Stephanie, Triple H. Uh-oh. Oh, God, Terry's here. Undertaker, Brett. Oh, Brett's on this? Can't wait for that.
Thank you, everybody.
Wow, Trish, Rock, Austin, Cena. Cody Rhodes. Not a fan. Beginning in 2021, over 100 hours of interviews were filmed for Vince McMahon, his family, business associates, and some of the World Wrestling Entertainment's most popular stars. I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't get the Vincenzo look for this documentary, but hey.
Do I know Vince McMahon? I don't think anybody knows Vince McMahon.
Please welcome Mr.
Hogan gives me the creeps these days.
But they really don't know.
And he has for a long time. Something fucking off about that man.
I love Vince, and I have a lot of respect for him. But he was a guy that often lied to me and let me down with his lies.
Do you think your dad gets a bad rap?
I think my dad gets the rap that he wants.
Yeah, not anymore. I guess you gotta acknowledge this right off the bat, because otherwise people are just gonna be waiting for this to, come up in the documentary. So I just want to say that that detail there is very interesting, because once that information becomes public, suddenly individuals like Vince McMahon would become a lot more guarded around certain information. So I think that is probably one of the more engaging parts of this documentary.
I wish I could tell you the real stories. Holy shit.
Phrasing.
I don't want to tell you these stories. I'll give you enough that's semi-interesting.
Fucking
I don't
hell.
want anybody to really know me.
Yeah, I bet you don't. Holy shit. So Vince is already saying that kind of stuff is taken out of context and manipulated and stuff like that. But to that I ask you, what person without a bunch of shit to hide is sitting there saying, oh, I don't want to tell you the real stories, I'll give you enough to make it semi-interesting? Like, what kind of bizarre comment is that to make in this kind of a situation, of all places?
This goes beyond business, it's a family matter as well.
This is like Succession in a wrestling ring.
I'm sorry, what was that voice there? Was that Adam Pacitti?
Beyond business, it's a family matter as well.
It is! Pacitti made the cut.
Remember, guys go, why do you watch that bullshit wrestling? It's on, none of it's real. You're wrong. I look at what I did. That's an art form. Just watch the beauty of it.
I agree. Wrestling is way more artistic than just, it's fake, scripted entertainment. There's so much momentum and rhythm and feeling and vibe that goes into every single match. Wrestling is about manipulating the audience into getting excited. That's the goal.
My dad was considered the best promoter in the business.
I first met Vince McMahon Sr. in Madison.
Whoa, they spoke to Heyman as well? I mean, I don't think he would reveal too much, but he was there. He was around.
Before that, I grew up in a trailer park with my mom and this certain stepfather who was abusive. I got the crap beat out of me on almost a daily basis.
Yeah, I heard about that. I feel like it got a bit worse than that too.
I never saw much wrestling on television until I met my dad. And then, this is what he does.
Really? That's pretty crazy. By the way, just a reminder to those that skip the intro, I'm not trying to show this full documentary in a way that you can follow every single interview. This is just my reaction to certain bits. So you're going to see a lot of this cut out. If you haven't already watched it yourself, go do that first.
I said, Pop, what are you going to do? Go announce. You're the announcer.
Show number 1, recording of All-Star Wrestling in Hamburg, Pennsylvania.
Really? They've got access to it? Oh my god.
Play, just roll it, Daddy. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Vince McMahon.
Don't tell me Vince McMahon calls his old man Daddy. Jesus Christ. Wow, that's a very hairy Bruno and a very hairy Zbyszko.
Which meant a good guy, and the other was a heel, which meant a bad guy.
And San Martino holds the rope open for Zbyszko to
Zbyszko, you bastard.
Kept that job announcing for my dad.
Yeah, he's no Lance Catamaran, that's for sure.
And then the final payment. And if I miss a payment, then you get the business back and keep the money. That appealed to my dad and appealed to his other stockholders because they're thinking, this kid's not going to make it.
We took over Vince's father's company.
Wow, that's an interesting deal to, get ownership of WWF.
Do you think your dad wanted you to succeed?
I don't think he did.
But then again, sometimes I think he did. They want to be pro wrestling. Don't like that term today.
Yeah, we know Vince. Guess what? It's what it is.
You didn't break those agreements.
As soon as I closed the deal, I knew right what I wanted to do. I'm going to go right into their territories.
One of the great...
Yeah. You just steamrolled them and took all their talent.
So my dad was very much against that.
I'm pretty sure Vince promised that he wouldn't try and buy out the other territories.
You didn't own anything. I'm competing with you.
He's not wrong about that either.
Most wrestlers that worked for Vince came from somewhere else, and somebody else did the hard work to make that person who they were. And one phone call, they ran and left that guy standing in the dust. Just like...
Yeah, that's true, but it makes me wonder, like, those wrestlers had the choice to stay loyal and do all that, and they chose to take the money, and the way they're making it sound is like the wrestlers just, like, walked off and didn't, like, give any kind of, you know, notice and stuff like that. I don't know if that's quite how it sort of went, but it does make you wonder how happy or unhappy some of the top talent in these territories were.
It's a dog-eat-dog world, and you have to get your bite out of it.
Say it, Tony Atlas.
You can see a black man and a white man eating out of the same popcorn box. Woo! That's funky. That's the American dream.
Dusty Rhodes was great. He's better than you, Cody. I'm sorry. I do not live in a Cody Rhodes household, though. My missus also does not like him.
This man is not a television illusion.
Oh, damn. Are they already kind of like... I thought they would have mentioned Andre a little bit more, but I understand there's a lot to get through. Oh, my God. Thunder Lips, what are you doing?
And he changed it to Hulk Hogan.
The incredible
Hulk Hogan, yeah. And then Marvel cracked the shits. And then Terry joined Metallica and saved Make-A-Wish kids.
He goes, well, if you do that, you're fired and you'll never work here again. I said, okay, cool.
Thunder Lips was born.
I followed his career, and he was really honing in on his talents.
Here comes Hogan. Here is the leg.
Wow, a rookie Hulk Hogan. Jesus Christ.
Somehow I had to transfer the title from Bob Backlund to get to Hogan. I couldn't make that match. There were two, quote, baby faces.
No.
It was the Iron Sheik.
At least Sheiky Baby got his title reign. That's fine.
Was one of the most disliked individuals we've ever had as a heel in our company.
Of course he was. Iron Sheik was an absolute unhinged lunatic.
And have people be able to react in a way that they couldn't necessarily react in real life.
Again, a lot of people do.
Yeah, okay, Bruce Pritchard. I think back in the 80s, people were not that shy about their hatred of Iran.
You look at the movies. Movies depicted Japan as the evil empire attacking America.
Yeah, America likes to depict anybody from another country as an evil person. We understand. That's why you're all patriotic maniacs. Not all of you. Most of you.
Wrestling is an imitation of the world. If you want to know what America is like, watch wrestling.
He's not wrong.
How come you don't like him? He's from another country, man. From another country.
This poor kid.
You can look back on anything and say, oh, I bet you regret that. Well, look back on, 10 years, 20 years, 5 years ago.
5 years ago? Vince! What I always wonder about this is, like, how does the Iron Sheik feel about it? Like, does he feel proud that he gets to, wear this Iranian, clothing? And even though he's playing this villainous character, like, is there a small sense of, like, sharing your culture with the global world, even as twisted as that is? Or do they just hate it? Like, I always wondered, like, how those wrestlers kind of feel, because I feel like most of them would probably not be that worried about it, and I can definitely see that, maybe not quite in the 80s, I still think it was a bit problematic then, but in the, like, late 90s, 2000s, I think people had, like, understood wrestling long enough to know that those kind of characters were tongue-in-cheek, but in the late 80s, early 90s, this shit was crazy.
So I wanted to transfer the title from Bob Backlund to the Iron Sheik, and then, of course, setting us up for this big hunt.
Oh my God, Eye of the Tiger?
I jumped in before the bell rang. Didn't tell him I was going to do it. Just
And he clotheslined him with it.
didn't tell him.
Yeah, you can tell that's not scripted there, Hulk.
Huge response from Madison Square Garden.
Hulkamania.
And the Iron Sheik never broke Hulk Hogan's leg, and history became what it was.
The business decision that Vince had to execute creatively, and it worked.
Many fans feel that Hulk Hogan
Yeah, well, no shit. It's pretty fucking obvious. You put the belt on a heel to lose it to the next babyface. What are we doing here?
Take Hulk Hogan out of the equation. I think Vince fails in his expansion. I'm relatively certain he fails in his expansion.
That's a hot take by Meltzer, but who knows? You don't think Macho Man could have carried it? Macho and Roddy? Come on.
But fuck them. You're beating all of them. I'm proud of you for what you've done. Fuck them all.
Oh. He said that? Okay.
That was one of the biggest moments of my life. Until.
Yeah, until WrestleMania 1? Oh, okay, or his dad dies. That makes a bit more sense.
The day before he died, it was the only time that he told me that he loved me.
See, I don't even know if I believe that. I don't know why he would lie. Well, I do know why he would lie about it, because he's Vince McMahon and he likes to make everything poetic and dramatic and, you know, fitting. And I don't think he ever stops trying to work the audience in some way, shape, or form. I really don't think he's that trustworthy of a person. Surprise, surprise.
I don't think he liked his father, to be honest with you.
Why do you say it? Why the fuck is Tony Atlas all over this documentary?
Every idea that came out of his head drove his father up the roof. It drove the wrestlers up the roof. I remember the guy just sitting in the dressing room talking about how nutty he was.
The phrase up the roof is driving me up the roof, Tony Atlas.
When he first came in and took over, he made that talk show. And we thought he was off his deep end.
Tuesday Night Titans was great.
He always wanted to use wrestling as a stepping stone into other stuff.
It's interesting. Now you see wrestlers on YouTube doing all these like challenges and trying food for the first time and playing with puppies and all that stuff. That was what Vince was trying to make happen. Whoa, he was on Letterman?
If a baby was born during the show, then that baby would become the late night baby. And so they sent...
That's a great idea.
And me to another.
Vince, I have a question for you.
Yes, David.
Is that your tuxedo?
No, actually, it's not.
Okay.
Question for you, Larry. Is that your tux?
No, it's not.
All right. Back to you.
Yeah, that Letterman clip was really interesting. That was probably the first time I've seen Vince McMahon trying to be, like, charismatic and stuff. It seemed to come very naturally the way he would do it in his own environment, but you could kind of smell the desperation a little bit in his voice during that bit, but it was a funny joke, and he nailed it.
How all women are nothing, Cindy!
Yeah, that was crazy. Cyndi Lauper's involvement in the first WrestleMania is criminally underrated. She should be in the Hall of Fame, and I love all of the clips of her getting involved in the wrestling world, because she was just so dedicated and committed and just into the whole moment. I think she was as pivotal as Hulk, or as pivotal as Piper, or as Vince.
Cindy was associated with us, and that made MTV think, well, okay, here's Cindy. At that time, women's wrestling was
non-existent.
I just got a call from her out of the blue asking if I could represent her in the ring. And I said, sure.
Wendy Richter looks like she is still healthy and happy and having a good time. She fucking deserves it.
Like, here's a mainstream sports guy, and now he's lending his voice to introducing Hulk Hogan and Rowdy Roddy Piper. And he's doing it straight.
Thank you, Howard. This is indeed an honor.
It was funny. I loved it.
That's great. I like that Bob Costas is super duper, like, in on the joke. Yeah, what the... I never understood why Andy Warhol was at WrestleMania.
It's just so exciting, I just don't know what to say.
Okay, go paint some pictures, Andy. Jesus Christ, Vince. Alright, he was already hitting the juice then, I can see.
So, why wouldn't we have one big end of a season type deal?
WrestleMania.
It's obvious, isn't it? Like, people treat this like it's some sort of innovative, like, holy shit moment, but isn't it that clear that you would do this? Have a yearly big event? Wasn't Starrcade already doing that?
Closed circuit television, every major city in the United States.
Not only that, Jack, but it's going to 24.
What are you doing, Jesse? Eyeshadow, now you go into a masquerade ball?
John Stossel from one of the networks wanted to interview some of our performers.
John Stossel's there under the premise.
Is John Stossel about to get his eardrum popped by Dr. Death?
He goes, "Do you guys use razor blades to bleed?" And I said, "Are you kidding me? Isn't that kind of masochistic?" Man, I make a beeline to Vince. I say, "Vince, this guy is not here to find out how popular Hulk Hogan is. He's here to expose the wrestling business."
Vince come into the dressing room, and he said, "There was a reporter here that run around asking..."
Oh, so that's what led to the David Schultz moment.
He said, "I wish someone would take care of that guy." And he walked out the dressing room.
Really? And David Schultz took up the challenge.
David Schultz decided he would step into...
He decided, did he, Vince? Okay.
It's fake. Out of nowhere, David Schultz just slaps the crap out of Stossel.
You think it's fake?
Fucking hell, man. That's a hard smack.
I mean, David was getting pats on the back. People was banning him drinks.
And then it fucking ruined his career.
Because wrestling is not fake. It's predetermined. And it's exhibition, but I can tell you, in the last 10 years, I've had 23 surgeries.
That's such a bullshit mind game way that wrestlers used to deal with that. They're like, is it fake? And they're like, well, the injuries are real. And I don't know why people, if those conversations just never got around to being articulated in a way that's like, I understand that, you know, you guys are big and you're hitting the ground and you're being thrown on the ground for real. We're not trying to say that there's some sort of like fucking space-time continuum shit going on here. Trying to ask, do you know who's going to win before the match? And they could never seem to get that. And the wrestlers would always just aggressively lean on this, well, I've had 10 surgeries in 15 years. Is that fake? Like, it's like, no, that's not the question, you fuckhead. We're not asking you if your injuries are fake. We're asking you if the show is a show or if you're two fighters fighting. We obviously know why they were giving that answer, but that just used to always annoy me. It's like, God, you guys are looking like idiots by saying this. Roddy Piper was really bad at it. And I hate saying that because I love Pipe. Love Roddy Piper is what I meant to say.
We loved it until the lawsuit came down. That's when the shit hit the fan.
Yeah, exactly.
The doctor now says I have ear damage that's probably permanent.
Yeah, whatever, mate. Fucking liar. David Stossel's been on record since then. I think it was on Dark Side of the Ring, talking about that thing, and basically, without saying it, suggested that he wasn't as fucked up as he claimed to be when he filed the lawsuit.
Hulk Hogan, who's the most media ready of anybody in that crew, finds himself in this incredibly bizarre and unfortunate situation.
Nah, that was unfortunate and bizarre. Nah, Hulk Hogan choked this man out and then let him fucking drop. He couldn't even tell. He's so roided up to his friggin' eyeballs at this point that he can't even tell that the guy that he's got in a front face lock has gone completely limp. That's bullshit. Nah, that's Hogan being a fucking moron and probably just coked out of his head and roided up to his eyeballs.
Keep like that for a little while.
When I let him go, he fell and hit his head.
Belzer just flopped.
I will say Belzer was being quite disrespectful as well, though.
In actuality, he was hurt.
Yeah, he cut his head open. Yeah.
We'll be right back. He hit his head when he fell.
I love how he just plays it up like, we'll be right back, folks. It's ironic that he could be that, like, composed when he is very obviously legitimately concussed.
Vince McMahon, I sued the World Wrestling Federation. I sued them all.
Whoa, he did?
Hulk Hogan and Mr. T in a tag team grudge match? They called it WrestleMania, the biggest event in pro wrestling since Gorgeous George.
Really? Just Gorgeous George? That was the biggest event?
But with greater success comes greater scrutiny. And Vince becomes a target.
That expression of there's no such thing as bad publicity, that's BS, because there is.
A special investigation.
Tell us all about it, Vince. Oh, the steroid trials, yeah. There's your neck brace. John Stossel settled his lawsuit against David Schultz and Titan Sports and made a bunch of money. Richard Belzer also settled his lawsuit against Vince McMahon, Hulk Hogan, and Titan Sports. A lot of settling going on. Alright, so that was about what I expected. A little bit of his childhood, a little bit of his, growth into the world of wrestling. I did learn some new stuff in this documentary, and obviously the rise of WrestleMania, blah, blah, blah. That bit's all done. We know what was coming. What I wanted to kind of take some time to talk about after all of that was, because I don't know if she's going to get brought up in this documentary again, the Fabulous Moolah. Vince kept her around on payroll, one of those like legacy hirings. Like there was a whole bunch of them. It was like guerrilla, like people that Vince's dad was like, make sure you take care of these people for the rest of their lives. It was like Monsoon. I think Howard Finkel was one of them. Fabulous Moolah. There might be like a couple of other ones as well. But these were people that Vince just kept on payroll, well into their 80s or whatever. And Moolah was a horrible, horrible person who just inflicted so much pain and misery and monopolized the women's wrestling world and took money and was pimping people out. And don't forget the Fabulous Moolah and all the terrible stuff that she did over the decades that she was doing it, and how much Vince McMahon thought of her. I'm going to continue watching this. I hope you enjoyed this reaction. This episode was pretty low-key, with the exception at the very start where they acknowledge all the Janelle Grant stuff. I don't think they're going to talk about that much more. I don't think we're definitely not seeing Janelle or anything like that. But there's so much to learn about this man and the shit that he's been doing over the years. And this is going to be a very candid interview because at the time of doing it, Vince didn't realize that his feet would be getting held to the fire 12 months later. So very interesting. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this one. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Patreon.com/FWCI if you want to support the channel further. And as always, everyone, be well, stay safe, look after your friends, ta-ta, and farewell.